history peeps, happy 4th of July. And on this 4th of July, I would like to bring you a sculpture of George Washington by a French artist named Houdon. And this particular sculpture is from a period of art called the neoclassical style, which is one of my favorite styles of all times. It means new classics. And if you think of, well, what does new classics mean? It's actually referring back to ancient Greece and Roman times. And so what had happened is in France, where this movement or style started, Louis XIV, if we back up a little bit, who was the King of France, built the Palace of Versailles. The people living to excess became very in vogue at that time. Well, as time went on, people were sick and tired of that, and they wanted to bring the good old days back, bring the classics back because those were better. They wanted to bring morals back. So in France is where the neoclassical movement started, and then it spread to the United States. Thank you, Thomas Jefferson, for doing that. So what had happened was this sculpture was commissioned to do of George Washington before he actually became president, and the Virginia State Capitol commissioned it. So Thomas Jefferson said, hey, there's this great artist in France named Houdon. Let's have him do it. So Houdon was going to sculpt it in France, but then decided to come to the United States, and he stayed for a few months, and he actually visited with George Washington out at Mount Vernon in his house, did some studies and some sketches, did a mask, like a cast mask of his face. So this is a true representation of George Washington and what he looked like. But George Washington also had some influence on how Houdon sculpted this. So to go with the neoclassical style, the pose of George Washington, this is called contrapposto, where their body weight is leaning, and that's been around since ancient Greek times. The Greeks epitomized contrapposto, and it's an Italian word that means counterpoise, because sculptures before that were very stiff and up and down. Well, contrapposto shows this natural shift of weight through the hip. So you can see this in George Washington. More weight is on this leg, and you can see this leg is a little more relaxed. But then when he was, okay, what kind of clothing do you put George Washington in? Houdon normally would have probably chosen like a toga. But George Washington said, you know what, I don't want to look like a Caesar. I don't want to look like a Roman emperor. You know, I want to look like who I really am. So he chose to wear his military uniform. So these are contemporary clothes of the time. But then what Houdon does is he kind of wants to show that he is a gentleman. So he's got a gentleman's walking stick over here. But then over here, these are 13 fasces, which together, those 13 fasces, they symbolize the strength in unity and also the 13 colonies. But then over here is George Washington's sword, and that being said, see how it's further away from his whole body, it's kind of leaning, is symbolizing his retirement. So that's how Houdon kind of puts the whole thing together, and George Washington had some say in how this was going to look, which I find very interesting. So I'll just wrap that one up and wish you all a happy 4th of July, and see you next time.